I still remember the way the glass felt in my hand, cold, smooth, trembling slightly from the shake in my fingers. The laughter echoed around me like a cruel reminder that I didn't belong. I was pouring drinks, trying to help, trying to stay invisible, when I heard her voice. "That's the maid, not family." The words sliced through the air sharper than the chill from the ice bucket beside me. My mother-in-law, Mina, said it loud enough for the nearest table to hear. She wasn't even trying to whisper. Her lips curled in that smug, passive-aggressive smile she's perfected over the years. The kind that makes you question if you heard her right. Except I had. I definitely had. Then, before I could react, I heard him. Rishi, my husband, my partner, the man who once told me I was the strongest woman he knew. He smirked. "She cleans up well, at least." The crowd burst into laughter. I stood there, stunned. My arm froze mid-pour. The lemonade spilled slightly over the rim of the glass, dripping onto my sari. I didn't even notice. My heart was pounding in my ears, drowning out everything else. My hands trembled as I clenched the serving tray against my chest. I forced a smile, small, mechanical, like the kind you give strangers when you bump into them in a grocery aisle. That's what I felt like in that moment. A stranger, in my own family. Was this who I was to them? Just a helper? An outsider pretending to be part of something I clearly wasn't? My chest felt tight, like the air had suddenly thickened. I could barely swallow the lump forming in my throat. My eyes darted toward Rishi, silently begging for, I don't even know what. An apology? A glance of regret? Something human? But he was laughing. Not loudly, but with that amused smirk, eyes twinkling like this was just harmless fun. His hand casually wrapped around his glass as if this was normal, as if I wasn't dying inside. Why did his words hurt so much? I'd heard worse from his mother. Mina never liked me. She made that clear from day one, too middle class, too ordinary. But I always thought Rishi saw through that he saw me. Apparently not. And the worst part? No one said anything. No one stopped the joke. The room just moved on. The music played, someone toasted again, and I was forgotten like background noise. I felt the sting behind my eyes, but I refused to let the tears fall. Not here, not in front of them. I straightened my back, adjusted the tray, and turned away. One foot in front of the other, I reminded myself. Just keep walking. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Arav, my son. He was standing a few feet away, near the floral arch. His eyes were wide, watching everything. Our eyes met, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. He looked confused, hurt even. I forced another smile just for him. He didn't smile back. That moment, that silence between us. It said everything. I turned back to the drink table, pretending to be busy. But my heart wasn't in it anymore. The laughter still echoed, but now it was just background noise to the storm building inside me. I didn't know it yet, but something was about to shift. And that shift, it would come from the most unexpected place. Not me, not Rishi, not even Mina, but my 9-year-old son, and a microphone that picked up every single word. If you had asked me a year ago what I imagined family looked like, I would have painted a picture full of warmth, shared meals, loud laughter, kids running underfoot, hands held tightly through tough times. But when I married into the Metas, I quickly learned that some families measure love by status, not by sacrifice. I'm Ria. I'm 38. I work in corporate finance by day and freelance graphic design by night. I'm not flashy. I don't own designer bags or take yoga retreats to Bali, but I work hard. I save. I build quietly. When I met Rishi 10 years ago, I thought I was stepping into love, into something secure. We were so different. Him, born into a legacy of doctors and businessmen. Me, the daughter of a retired school teacher and a mother who passed away before I turned 20. But he made me believe we could bridge those differences. That love would be enough. It wasn't. His mother, Mina, never saw me as part of them. She called me practical, which is Mina speak for boring. I didn't fit into her world of gold-plated cutlery and choreographed sangeets. Over the years, her disapproval moved from sharp glances to sharper words. Rishi? He became quieter about it. He stopped defending me after the first few years. Maybe it was easier for him that way. But this story isn't about Rishi and Mina. It's about the night I hit a breaking point, and the boy who unknowingly stitched something back together. It all began with my cousin Priya's wedding. Priya is like a little sister to me. When my mom died, I was 15. Priya would follow me everywhere. She'd sneak into my room, braid my hair, sit beside me while I studied. She was just 7 then, but somehow she always knew when I needed someone. So when she got engaged last year, I was ecstatic. But then Uncle Raj, her father, got diagnosed with kidney failure. Medical bills drained most of their savings, and I saw the stress in his eyes even as he tried to smile through wedding planning. One night over tea, I told Priya, "Let me help. Use my savings. Let me pay for the venue and catering." She immediately said no. So did Uncle Raj, but I insisted. "Just don't tell anyone. Let it be your day." I didn't want credit. I just wanted to see her walk down the aisle radiant and carefree. So behind the scenes, I coordinated vendors, helped Aunt Sunita with invites, handled late-night calls about floral delays, and wired payments without a second thought. I didn't tell Rishi either. It wasn't out of secrecy. It was just something I wanted to do on my own. The wedding day arrived in a blur of color and nerves. The venue sparkled with fairy lights and jasmine garlands. Laughter floated through the air like confetti. Priya looked like a dream, her lehenga glinting under the warm evening lights. I wore a simple sari, mint green, understated. I didn't want to overshadow anyone. I was running around helping coordinate things, making sure the dessert trays were replenished and the drinks table didn't run dry. I didn't mind. I liked being useful. No one really noticed me. Not until that moment. Not until Mina's voice sliced through the noise like a siren. "That's the maid, not family." And just like that, everything I'd done, every late night, every saved rupee, every tiny act of love was erased by one sentence. The woman who saw me raise her grandson, who lived off our shared income for years, looked at me and saw nothing but help. But that was just the beginning, because someone else noticed, someone who had been watching everything quietly, and he wasn't going to let it go. I don't know how I kept my composure after that. Maybe it was habit. Years of swallowing my pride in front of Mina had trained me well, but something about this time, it was different. It wasn't just the insult. It was the laughter that followed, the kind of laughter that told me I was a joke, that no one, not even Rishi, thought I deserved better. I could still feel the sting in my cheeks as I stood by the drink station. My sari felt suddenly too plain, too tight, like it didn't belong here either. I looked down at the droplets of lemonade clinging to my blouse, the condensation from the glasses sliding onto my hands. I wiped them on the edge of the tablecloth, trying to busy myself with something, anything, so I wouldn't have to look at anyone. My chest felt tight. I wanted to disappear. Across the room, Rishi was surrounded by his cousins. He leaned back in his chair, laughing along with the rest of them, lifting his glass like he hadn't just humiliated me. I kept telling myself to breathe, but it wasn't working. A familiar voice pulled me back. "You okay?" It was my Uncle Raj. His eyes were kind but tired. He was holding a plate of gulab jamun and balancing it like it weighed 100 pounds. I nodded. "Just a little warm in here." He smiled and lowered his voice. "You've done more than enough, Ria. You made this wedding happen. I don't think we could have done any of it without you." I swallowed hard. That meant something. It did. But I couldn't shake what had just happened. My mind kept looping that moment like a broken record. That's the maid, not family. She cleans up well, at least. Their voices had embedded themselves in my brain, echoing off the walls of my self-worth. And then I saw him. Arav, my 9-year-old. He was standing near the back of the hall beside the DJ booth, fidgeting with the buttons on his shirt. His eyes weren't on the stage, or the music, or the dancing cousins. He was watching me. Our eyes met, his brows furrowed, and he tilted his head just slightly as if to ask, "Why did Dad say that? Why did Nani laugh?" And though he didn't speak a word, I felt the question as clear as day. I smiled or tried to, a soft, forced curve of the lips, but I saw it, the flicker in his eyes. He knew something wasn't right, and that broke me more than the comment itself, because now he had heard it too. My sweet, observant little boy who always left sticky notes on my laptop that said, "You got this, Mama," and drew tiny, smiley faces when he saw I was stressed. He had heard them laugh at me, and the worst part? I didn't say anything. I just kept working, kept moving, like always. The wedding continued around me. Music, dancing, toasts. Priya and her groom, Arjun, were glowing on stage, laughing and clinking glasses with their guests. And I was behind the scenes again, trying to stitch myself together with trembling hands and a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I should have said something. To Meena, to Rishi, to someone. But I didn't. I told myself I was being mature, that this was Priya's night, not mine, that I could cry later. But deep down, I knew what it really was. Fear. Fear that if I stood up for myself, I'd only confirm what they believed about me, that I was too dramatic, too emotional, too lower class to understand how these things worked. So I stayed silent. I thought the moment had passed. I thought no one else noticed. But I was wrong, because Arav had noticed, and he wasn't done. I thought I could brush it off, just focus on helping Priya, blending into the background and getting through the night. But the truth is, I wasn't okay. I was unraveling inside. I slipped out the side door of the reception hall and found a quiet spot by the garden. The fairy lights strung between the trees flickered gently, like they, too, were tired of pretending everything was perfect. My fingers found the edge of the wooden bench, and I sat down slowly, afraid that if I moved too fast, the emotions would spill out before I was ready. My hands were shaking again. I pulled out my phone, not to message anyone, but just to hold something solid. I looked at the screen, blank. No new messages, no apology from Rishi, not that I expected one. I stared at the reflection of my own face in the black screen, eyes rimmed with kohl and hurt, lips pressed into a flat line, like if I relaxed even a little, everything would fall apart. Why did his words sting so much? Why had I let it happen? And then came the guilt. The guilt that I was even thinking about myself when Priya's biggest day was unfolding inside. I could hear the music through the walls, laughter, applause, the dull thud of bass beneath someone's heartfelt speech. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, "Get up. Go back in. You can cry tomorrow." That's when I heard small footsteps crunching on the gravel behind me. I turned. It was Ayarav. He walked slowly toward me, his tiny frame illuminated by the soft yellow garden lights. His hands were in the pockets of his little sherwani. That boy has always been so expressive. He didn't need words to speak. His face said everything. He sat next to me without saying anything. After a few seconds, he leaned his head on my shoulder. I closed my eyes. "I heard what Nani said," he whispered. My heart clenched. Arav. And what Dad said after. I opened my mouth, but no words came. What could I say? That they didn't mean it? That it was a joke? He lifted his head and looked up at me. "Why didn't you say anything?" His voice wasn't accusing, just curious, innocent. I hesitated. Because sometimes grown-ups stay quiet to keep peace. He looked confused, but it wasn't peaceful. It was mean. I let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, it was." There was a pause. Then he asked, "Did you really pay for this whole wedding?" I looked down at him. I helped, just to make sure everything went smoothly for Priya. He nodded slowly, eyes distant. "You always help." He stood up before I could say anything else and brushed imaginary dust off his sleeves, like he was preparing for something big. "Where are you going?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just smiled. That quiet, confident smile he only wears when he's decided something for himself. Then he turned and walked back inside. I followed, keeping my distance, thinking maybe he was going to the dance floor or to grab a juice box. But then I saw him veer right, toward the stage. My heart dropped. The MC was mid-sentence when Arav tapped him on the elbow. I watched the man lean down, surprised, as Arav whispered something. Then, the microphone changed hands. Arav stood there, under the lights, in front of 150 people, holding the mic like it weighed more than him. I froze. He cleared his throat. And in that split second, time stopped. I had no idea what he was going to say, but I knew. Everything was about to change. Arav's little voice echoed through the speakers, cutting through the noise like a knife through satin. "Excuse me, everyone." The room hushed almost instantly. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the DJ turned down the music without being asked. All eyes were suddenly on him, on my 9-year-old son standing center stage, holding a microphone with both hands like it was too big for him. His Sherwani sleeves were slightly crumpled, his hair tousled from running around, but his eyes, they were steady, focused, brave. He cleared his throat again. "I just wanted to say something about my mom." My heart dropped to my stomach. Oh God, what was he doing? I took a step forward instinctively, my mouth already forming the words, "Arav, no." But my feet stopped. Something in me said, "Let him speak." He took a breath, just like I'd taught him before his first school recital. Deep in through the nose, out through the mouth. "She's not the maid," he said loud and clear. The silence that followed was deafening. Every muscle in my body tensed. I felt the blood rush to my face. I could hear someone at table 5 gasp. Mina turned her head sharply like she'd misheard, but she hadn't. "She's my mom," Arav continued. "She helped pay for this wedding. She stayed up really late working on her computer for weeks. She skipped her birthday to help Priya auntie." He looked toward the bride and groom. Priya's hands covered her mouth. Her eyes were already glistening. My hands were clasped in front of me now, trembling. "She's always helping people," Arav said, his voice starting to shake just a little. "And she never says anything when people are mean to her, but I think that's not fair." I saw Rishi shift uncomfortably in his seat, jaw tightening. Mina was frozen, lips slightly parted, as if she was about to say something, but didn't. "And she's not a maid," Arav repeated. "She's amazing. She made this whole place look beautiful and nobody even noticed." He paused, eyes scanning the room, and then he said the words that broke something open in me. "But I noticed." A breath caught in my throat. I covered my mouth with my hand. My knees felt weak. The world spun a little. He looked right at me, voice gentler now. "I love you, Mama. You're the best person I know." There it was. The room stayed still for a second longer, like the world was holding its breath with me. Then it happened. One person started clapping, then another, and then it spread. Slow, deliberate, respectful applause, rippling through the room like a quiet storm. Not the rowdy kind meant to hype a crowd. No, this was different. This was raw, genuine, felt. I was still frozen, eyes brimming, when Grandpa Dev stood up from his seat at the front table. He'd been quiet all evening, nodding along to speeches, smiling at Priya's joy. But now he walked. No, marched, up to Arav and put his hand on his shoulder. "Well said, young man," he said into the mic. "Sometimes the youngest voices carry the most truth." Arav smiled nervously, handing the microphone back. Dev looked out over the crowd and said, "We owe Rhea a thank you. Not just for today, but for what she's shown us all." And just like that, I was seen. Really, truly seen. No longer the help, no longer invisible, but the woman who'd held everything together, quietly, until the one person who mattered most finally made the whole room listen. The applause faded slowly, like the tide pulling back after a wave that no one saw coming. And in the stillness that followed, I stood there, frozen, overwhelmed, exposed, but not in the way I feared. This time, I wasn't humiliated. I was held by that silence, by the stares that had shifted from judgment to recognition, by the quiet nods from people I never thought noticed me at all. I don't remember walking up to Arav. My feet just moved, like they knew where I needed to be before my mind caught up. He turned to me with that shy smile, the one he gives me when he's not sure if he's done something wrong or brilliant. I knelt down and hugged him tightly, burying my face in his shoulder. "You were so brave," I whispered. "I just told the truth," he said simply. Behind us, the celebration continued, but something had changed. It was subtle, but real. Mina didn't look at me the rest of the night. She barely touched her food. Rishi? He said nothing, but his silence was loud, guilty, uncomfortable. He didn't make a scene, didn't apologize, just stayed close to his cousins, sipping his drink with a tense jaw. That used to bother me. Not anymore, because for once I wasn't sitting in my own corner wondering if I was being overly sensitive. The truth had been laid bare, not by me, but by a child, my child, who had seen more clearly than most adults ever do. And that changed everything. After the dinner, Priya came running over in tears. She hugged me like she was holding on for dear life. "I'm so sorry, Dee," she whispered. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I smiled through tears. "I didn't do it for them. I did it for you." She pulled back and cupped my cheeks. "I know, and I'll never forget it." Even Uncle Raj, who's usually a man of few words, came to me with misty eyes and said, "Your son has more backbone than most men I know." Funny how it took a 9-year-old to finally give me back something I didn't even realize I'd lost, my voice. I didn't confront Meena. I didn't need to. Her silence said enough. And for once, she was the one shrinking in the background, not me. As for Rishi, the ride home was quiet. Arav fell asleep in the back seat, his little hand still clutching the leftover rose petals Priya had given him. Rishi stared straight ahead, tapping the steering wheel. I didn't say a word. When we got home, I carried Arav to his bed, tucked him in, kissed his forehead. As I turned to leave, he mumbled sleepily, "Mama?" "Don't let them make you small again." I froze. My throat closed up. "I won't," I whispered. "I promise." And I meant it. The next morning, I woke up with a kind of clarity I hadn't felt in years. I brewed my tea, sat by the window, and let the light hit my face. Warm. Software. Unapologetic. This wasn't just about a wedding or a cruel joke. This was about years of swallowing words I should have spoken, about shrinking to make others comfortable, about mistaking silence for strength. Not anymore. Arav reminded me who I was, not the maid, not just the helper, not invisible. I was the woman who showed up when it mattered, the woman who built quietly, the mother who raised a boy brave enough to speak up when the world stayed silent. And that will always be enough. So if you've ever felt small in a room full of people who were supposed to protect you, if you've ever swallowed your truth just to keep the peace, I see you, and I hope my story reminds you that your silence doesn't make you weak, but your voice, when you finally use it, or even when someone uses it for you, it can move mountains. Sometimes it only takes one brave heart to speak the truth, and sometimes that brave heart is 9 years old and holding a mic in front of 150 people. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where someone finally stood up for you, or where you stood up for yourself when no one else would? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I promise you, you're not alone. If this story moved you, helped you feel seen, or just made you think, please like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real stories that speak straight from the heart. And hey, thank you for being here, truly. I don't take it for granted. Until next time, take care of your heart and never be afraid to take up space.